Should Dominick Cruz fight Sean O'Malley next? So if you've missed the news, apparently Cruz texted Chael Sonnen and said he was interested in a fight with O'Malley following O'Malley's win at UFC 260. O'Malley then went on the Pat McAfee show and said he would be interested in the matchup, especially as a co-main event to the Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor trilogy that's rumored to headline the July 10th card. With that in mind, that does sound on paper like a great stylistic matchup. We've just seen Cruz come over a victory of Casey Kenny. O'Malley looked pretty phenomenal in his fight against Almeida. Makes a fair amount of sense. No, Drake, I know you're the Dominick Cruz guy. What say you?
Well, first of all, I want to mention kind of the part about Chael's involvement here, which Chael and Dominic, both my two favorite fighters of all time, hands down, end of story. But it's really kind of funny to me and random how this is very random. I think him being like, "Hey, by the way, everybody, Dominic told me he wants to fight O'Malley." Which, as much as I love Chael, like I just said, I don't know if you can ever fully trust kind of these things. He's kind of putting it out there into existence to make things happen a little bit. But O'Malley's playing along, and we've yet to hear directly from Dom. But if we're gonna go by kind of his mindset right now, and he hasn't really said anything about who he wants to fight next specifically, but in that same type of range and position, I guess he's in career and legacy wise. It would be fun. And I actually, I did mention this on the post-fight show, this matchup. That would be a fun one, but I don't exactly think it is the one to do. As I also said, I think that a fight like Ricky Simone or Hana Yaya might be better for Sean O'Malley right now. Of course, the matchup would be awesome and a fantastic test for Sean O'Malley would Cruz be. I mean, all three of those guys, there's plenty of great tests for him at bantamweight, honestly. But yeah, if you're going to look at it from a business side, though, Pat, as I'm sure you will break that down momentarily, that's probably the best one to make out of, those three guys I just mentioned. And, just in terms of a guy who has what would be the biggest win for the biggest name to add to O'Malley's still early resume, who isn't far up the ladder, but you could really sell off of, if he was to win, push him up there without having him fight somebody who's like right in the top 5 or what have you right now. I know Dom is they have him around 11-ish right now at the moment. There's even that. I always forget that they rank him still, but it's interesting to think about because it's like Dominic coming off of a win, where exactly, he's a guy who should always be fighting, top 10 guys at the very least. And it was very surprising that he fought Casey Kenny, in his last fight. So I think it depends on kind of the direction that the UFC wants to go with him and how he feels about his position right now. Because we know the Casey Kenny fight wouldn't have happened if he hadn't lost 2 fights in a row and, had the time off, like all these little factors about it, just there's no way that would have happened. So it depends a lot, I think, on what'll be next for him. And I mean, how they want to react to his monster call out kind of stuff, that's always a little wrinkle into the mix. But the fight to make is Cruz Aldo, and I will have no other bones about it. Even Edgar, I would be fine with Cruz versus Edgar, but one of those guys or somebody who, is firmly in the top 10 or around that similar status. So I don't think the O'Malley fight's the one to make. Business-wise would be very smart for both reasons. Bigger reward for O'Malley, I think, definitely, but it wouldn't hurt Dom to knock the shine off of that afro.
Yeah, you bring up a lot of great points, especially with where Cruz is at in his career and what makes sense for O'Malley. I mean, Cruz versus Aldo, I'm with you. That seems to be the fight that, us hardcore fans have been wanting to see for ages. And you have an opportunity to make that here easily, especially if you're talking about rankings and getting a boost. You also have Frankie Edgar there, so you could match up O'Malley and Edgar while you do Cruz versus Aldo. I love that positioning. I think that makes sense. But the one caveat is the business side, where you do have a former division champion, which for whatever reason, regardless of what stage they are in their career, a lot of fans eat it up and the promotion pushes it just to the off the rails that, oh, he beat a former champion, he should totally deserve a number one contender match or a title fight. Like Israel Adesanya beating Anderson Silva, oh, that was what granted him a title. Like, really? That's the one? I mean, I love Anderson Silva, but good God, I mean, he's was definitely at the tail end of his career. So with Cruz being the former bantamweight champion, I think it could be a boost. Stylistically, I think it could be fireworks, especially with the way those two fight. It could be very good. But I'm with you. I don't think that's the fight to make right now. But business-wise, I could easily see them doing it, especially since now there's some talk behind it, since O'Malley said he'd like to do that. I think it's already got some legs under them. I think Chael did his job and kind of put it out into the universe, right? Because that makes a lot of sense from a promotional standpoint. And especially if they did put it on the co-main or, main card of the McGregor-Poirier pay-per-view, that's a big opportunity for O'Malley to get some of the shine back after losing to Chito Vera. Because they're obviously very high on O'Malley. His sales and his popularity was up there after losing that fight. Kind of took a little bit of a dive. This has, again, given him some more shine back, but doing something like a co-main event on a McGregor card where you've got so many casual fans that don't watch any other time, if he's able to perform, that would catapult him. So wouldn't be shocked by the matchup at all. I hope it doesn't happen, but I wouldn't be that upset about it either, I suppose, if it came to be.
Yeah, I wouldn't either, because I think it would be very fun, and I like that test and challenge for O'Malley, because as I said, I feel like we still have a lot to learn about him. Didn't really learn too much from that Almeida victory. Did what he was supposed to do and what we knew he was capable of doing against somebody like Dominick, who is just incredibly unique of a striker and mixes in his wrestling very well. People always forget how good of a wrestler he is because of his unorthodox striking. So I think that is a phenomenal test for O'Malley. As for the co-main event part of it, though, potentially being, let's assume that it could get set for that. As much as I love the matchup as a matchup, I love Dominick and believe that, that would be awesome for him to be in that spot, as well as, O'Malley getting that potential to really rise with that spot as well. I don't think that it should be, but when you think about how Conor McGregor cards are built, that seems pretty fitting for what they would do for that, because they don't typically stack those cards because they don't need to. And I mean, we don't have to get into the main event myth, or the stack card myth, excuse me, where people think stack cards sell, because that's not the case. It's about the main event, which is why the cards are never too insane top to bottom for Conor McGregor fights. But of course, you get that rub from being on it. The guys who, or the fights that aren't, all contenders and, top tens, there's a lot more watered down, just to put it plain and simple. So that would be a good co-main event for the product they're typically selling with Conor cards. But in a general sense, I would be surprised to see it there. I wouldn't be mad at it, as I said, but like it doesn't seem like right there yet, just because of how O'Malley is still, a guy who hasn't quite broken into that echelon of, a top 10, just to put it that way, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, they'll want to make sure he's ready, right? I mean, that's a huge part of it, when you're in that type of position from a business standpoint, if you're going to give O'Malley the shot at a co-main, or whoever you give the co-main under McGregor, generally you want to give that person the opportunity out there, have a high level, and then make a huge call out, say something on the mic that wins people, right? I mean, if you look at Chandler, look what he was able to do. I mean, it really does give you a boost if you are able to seize the moment. And I know they see that potential in O'Malley, but once you suffer a loss, it's that unfortunate thing about trying to rise and be a crossover superstar. You suffer one loss and you can pretty much get derailed and maybe never actually get back on top again. You got to be perfect, dominant, all these things to really hit that megastar level. And O'Malley has the potential to kind of get some of that shine back, but who knows? It's
pressure
hard
in
to
that
say.
spot too. Extra pressure.
Yes, very much so. So let us know in the comments if you like the Cruz O'Malley matchup, if you think they should be fighting other people, if you think it'll actually happen, and if it does, will it be a co-main event? Will it be somewhere on the main card or an undercard? Let us know your thoughts on the whole situation. And yeah, I mean, I guess one thing I will say with Chael getting involved with this, you know, I know you said you can't always trust some of his words, but I do believe, you know, Lil Nog tried to feed that carrot to the bus. You know,
Goes without saying.
yeah, goes without saying.